liftoff and the clock has started.
Welcome to episode 2 of the Tesla Time podcast, the UK Tesla unofficial podcast. I'm your host, Joe Winter, and on this week's show, people are going plaid. That's right, the Model S Plaid is finally delivered to real people in real life. It's actually happening, which is great. Also on the show, we look at why we might be seeing our police force jumping on the Tesla bandwagon very soon, and Tesla making moves in Manchester. Stick with me because it's that time again. It's Tesla time. Tesla time indeed. So on this show, we're going to get the ball rolling. It's episode 2, so we can jump straight in. If you want to hear the introduction, which I ran through on the last show, so the very first episode 1, then go back to check out who I am and why I'm doing what I'm doing. But now the ball's rolling, so we can jump straight in with the first headline, which is purely and simply the dust is settling on the Model S Plaid event. So last week we saw the Model S Plaid delivery event hosted by Elon Musk, and now this week we're starting to see the car in the hands of real ordinary people, which I think is awesome. You know, for what seems like years, but really for the last 6 months we've seen leaked images, we've seen leaked footage, we've seen test vehicles driven by Tesla employees out on the roads. Now these test vehicles as well, you know, they're in tatters. You know, they might be testing just the steering wheel, for example. So the rest of the dash is just, completely ripped up and there's wires hanging out. So it's so great to see real people, real customers driving their brand new, shiny Model S Plaids. At the event, the first 25 cars were officially delivered. Elon Musk said at the event, quote, "Deliveries begin now. The car is in production. We're going to be delivering the first 25 cars now, and we'll be at several hundred cars a week soon, and 1,000 cars a week next quarter." End quote. So with the news of the Plaid Plus being, canned, looming over us last week, it's really good to see Tesla delivering cars again. And let's not forget, for the last, what is it now? As I look at the date here, the last 2 quarters, Tesla have not been selling a Model S or Model X. New, I should say. Of course you can buy them from the existing inventory and second hand, but that model line has just ceased, which is always a bit strange. If you follow, I don't know, any other car manufacturer in the world, they'll sell you the old one all the way up until the new one is released. But not Tesla. Tesla pulled the Model S deliveries 2 quarters ago, so that really is incredible. We're still waiting on the X. There were kind of dummy X cars at the event that people could sit in, and we've seen a lot of footage come out, especially on YouTube, of people sat in those. Kind of like what the Y is to the 3, it kind of feels like the X is to the S. It shares a lot of its parts. It's going to look very same, especially with that yoke steering wheel. In terms of the UK, according to Tesla's website on their design studio, UK orders of the Model S long range and Model S Plaid have an expected delivery date of, quote, end of 2022. So, still a little wait there, and, I'll be sure to keep an eye out on that for you folks throughout the coming weeks if that date comes in, which we did see it with the Model 3 way back when. So hopefully it does, but of course, at the moment it's head down from a Tesla perspective, doubling down on all things production in the US. So now the Model S is in people's hands. Just a couple of takeaways from me. Firstly, the yoke steering wheel looks insane. So this is this F1 design steering wheel. So it doesn't have like that top arch of the arm kind of looping from the left hand side to the right hand side. So it's like an F1 steering wheel. People thought it couldn't be done. People questioned whether it was even legal, but sure enough, Tesla are doing it, no questions asked. And all the way along, kind of waiting for this Model S to be delivered to people, Elon's just been saying yeah, it's going to come with are you sure it's going to come with a yoke? And Elon's always been like, yeah, of course it is. So it's that's really cool to see, and I love the look at that yoke. Stalkless. So, no indicator stalk, no windscreen wiper stalk, no gear shift stalk. And actually, I'm hearing really good things around the removal of the stalk. So, indicators, cruise control, autopilot are all controlled via buttons on the yoke steering wheel. It looks like this is going to be one of those kind of learning curve things. But from what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing online, not taking your hands off the wheel to do these kind of simple functions seems really fluid and just kind of makes sense. I'm surprised we've not seen it before, actually. So yeah, yoke steering wheel, no stalks, the screen. Oh god, the screen. So it's if you're a Model 3 driver now, it's 2 inches bigger on the diagonal than the 3 and the Y. So 15 inch to 17 inch in the Model S and X. And oh god, it looks gorgeous. Interestingly, there's no swivel, which was mentioned on the design studio when the Model S was first announced. They talked about the screen potentially pitching and kind of moving to your desired position as you drove, or for the passengers. But that has since been taken off of the design studio. So there are certain rumours and reports suggesting that the ability to swivel the screen might be coming through a software update. So we'll have to wait and see there. Although as it stands, there is certainly no movement. And if you are ever sat in one, don't try and move it yourself. The UI looks awesome, by the way. You know, that ability to move windows around, like a drag and drop motion, looks really cool, much like an iPad or a tablet. As well as being able to decide what sits on your system tray, kind of the main dials down the bottom. There is a lot of question marks online, people asking whether or not this UI will be coming out to the Model 3 in the UK and obviously the Model Y and 3 in the US. And to be honest with you, I'm concerned about this. I'd love to see it, but in my head, the issue with it coming to our cars is probably twofold. Number one, the Model S doesn't need that autopilot driving simulator graphic on the main screen. As it's obviously on the dash screen, which is dead ahead of you, which of course isn't available on the 3 and Y because, there isn't a dash screen. So that kind of means they have a lot more flexibility around what they can do with that center screen from a Tesla perspective on the Model S. And secondly, let's not forget the chips and the compute power inside the Model S is an absolute beast compared to its 3 and Y cousins. They have in the past done upgrades where you could pay to upgrade your MCU, effectively the compute power in your center console. Nothing been spoken about in terms of the new MCU in the Model S's. So, let's wait and see what happens, but I wouldn't get your hopes up. Worth mentioning though, Elon tweeted back in December 2020 and he said, quote, "We need a UI overhaul." This was in response to a lot of complaints around the big Christmas update, which increased the amount of screen real estate, can I say, that driving autopilot sim had. Right, so this is, the thing that shows you the lines and the bins and, the animals and the people and your little car moving along and all that stuff. So, that's a big space that takes up. And we actually now have a lot of what I would call white dead space on our screens. So people weren't happy and were tweeting him, and he did come back and say, listen, we understand, we need a complete overhaul. But the talk was, when that December update came out, that Christmas update it was all in preparation for full FSD, because obviously that simulation kind of autopilot sim, that's going to be a lot more complex and a lot more needed when you're in full self-driving, if you see what I'm saying. So yes. Speaking of screens, by the way, the bezels on the rear screen, I don't know if you've seen those in the Model S Plaid. Those bezels, oh god, yuck. I mean, this is, real first world problems, and I get that, but I have not seen bezels like that since the early 2000s. Nevertheless, to be fair, the rear screen as standard, by the way, across all the models, is an absolute win for the Model S. The ability to have something different on there to the driver, but also to stream from the driver's screen to that screen, so everyone in the car can watch the same movie at the same time whilst, supercharging or whatever. It's awesome. That's really, really cool. And also, by the way, some of the reviews of, people were concerned about, having to tilt your head and your neck cranking as you're looking at that screen. But apparently it's not too bad. So that's also good. Overall, I absolutely love the car. I love what it does to the wider EV debate. I love how it's more performant than a multi-million-dollar supercar, but you can still, load the suitcases in and take the whole family to the beach or go and play golf with your golf clubs or whatever. Would I have liked to have seen more exterior changes. Yes, frankly, on the outside it doesn't look any different other than those matte black accents. But it doesn't look horrific. It still looks really nice, especially with the 21-inch wheels. And it's kind of an incredible nod and testament to the design team at Tesla who designed the Model S 10 years ago and haven't really made any changes to it since, but it still holds up. So yeah, really exciting event. Lots of fallout still coming out online. So yeah, as the car gets into more and more hands, we'll have to see what it looks like, how it performs, and what people think of it. Now, what's great is the rest of the headlines are UK-related headlines, which is awesome and exactly what we want to see. The first one being, Tesla Model 3 police car hits UK roads for emergency response trials. This article comes from the Sunday Times. Kieran Ahuja writes, Tesla has created an emergency response Model 3 that will be tested by the UK police force, fire brigades and other emergency services. The trial vehicle is intended to help emergency services cut their emissions as part of the government's Road to Zero strategy, which aims to reduce the emissions from road transport. As part of the strategy, which was published in July 2018, the emergency services are aiming to move to an entirely electric fleet by 2030, end quote. Now, this is it. You know, this to me, this is really exciting. There's just so many benefits and great stuff in this article. Kieran actually writes at one point, the car maker, Tesla, claims uptake would save emergency services money and improve environmental credentials, end quote. And, you know, there's absolutely no doubt in that. The benefit this is going to have to our planet, to, you know, the taxpayer in the cost of running these vehicles and the saves that you can recognise there is fantastic. But even more exciting than that, from my perspective, is, you know, you think about the impact that this will have on Tesla progression within the UK and even actually EV progression. Let's widen that. EV progression within the UK. When we start to see our emergency services using EVs, that's going to win over a huge amount of mindshare within the British public. Again, you know, I discussed this last week. It's all about increasing that comfort level. That salesman at Tesla in Guildford said to me, you know, he doesn't sell anything. What he's trying to do is he's trying to increase the comfort level within his customers about, you know, all things electric and moving to Tesla. And, you know, seeing our police force, you know, in a Tesla is just, you know, that's going to win over a huge amount of mindshare. So that's great. Not to mention the fact, by the way, the car looks awesome. I mean, seeing that police that livery wrapping around a Tesla Model 3, I mean, wow, it looks awesome. Give it a Google. Check out the Sunday Times because, it looks sick. Also, by the way, as we know, Teslas move like a bat out of hell. So if you're in trouble and you want your emergency services there ASAP, you know, heading over to you in a Tesla Model 3 Performance, you know, that could increase your chances. I don't know. So, you know, that's also great as well. At the moment, by the way, important to point out, this is just a trial, so it needs to be approved through these, you know, as you can imagine, stringent testing procedures that are in place. But in the US, we've seen Tesla fly through these hurdles, and hopefully we'll see the same here in the coming months. Very exciting indeed. Okay, so what else have we got here? Oh yes, for my Manchester-based listeners, Tesla to take over Trafford Centre car park. So this headline comes from Place Northwest, which is a Manchester-based publication. And the article goes on to say, according to the recent planning application, the electric vehicle firm Tesla is to use the Regent 14 car park at the Trafford Centre for 12 months whilst it looks for a permanent home at the shopping centre. The car park is located off Bridgewater Circle on the west side of the mall. The delivery hub is set to feature a 13,000 square foot showroom as well as a test drive area. In addition, part of the car park would house 18 supercharger ports, doubling the Trafford Centre's electric vehicle charging provision, which currently sits at 9. The EV charging spaces would remain in place and operational after the expiry of Tesla's 1-year lease on the car park, according to the planning consultancy Barton Wilmore. Again, end quote by the way. Again, some more good news coming out of all things UK Tesla here. And I guess, as I've started doing this podcast and thinking about the difference between, being a Tesla fan in the US and being a Tesla fan in the UK, I guess the disadvantage of being a Tesla fan in the UK is we're always a bit behind, right? With all these developments and big plans. And, I mentioned the Model S Plaid coming out in late 22, which, seems like a yonks away. However, the advantage is that peace of mind in knowing what's coming, because everything that has happened in the US has either now happened here or is starting to happen or will happen. In the US, they have very specific hub points, for example, right? Around the country, clearly in the California and surrounding areas of California, you can find these large Tesla destinations. We're seeing solar canapes, facilities like toilets, bins, even Tesla restaurants and bars. Often these hubs have over 50 chargers on key routes throughout the US. But it's stories like this one about the Trafford Centre in Manchester that makes you think, okay, we're on the right track here. We've still got a long way to go, don't get me wrong. But then again, the amount of sales that we're seeing here and the amount of, the space that we have, it's harder to get planning permission, but also our cars aren't travelling as far. The reality is, as a UK citizen, on average, you are doing less miles than the average US citizen. So, it's kind of a yin and yang thing. But, let's just take England, for example. I've got to think here, you have, what have you got? You've got the South Coast, you've got London, Birmingham, Manchester, and then Newcastle, Liverpool up north. Sorry if I've missed anywhere key. But, if you had hubs at those locations, so one on the South Coast, London and Birmingham kind of cover the middle, Manchester covers like south-north, and then Newcastle, Liverpool covers north. If you had hubs at those locations, you'd be doing all right. That kind of means that, wherever you are, you could get to, if you've got a 350-mile range car, chances are you could probably get to a hub, right? And I think, to be honest with you, I think we're going to start to see that. And I think Elon really likes the idea now that, you used to have to go to a supercharger for over an hour. Whereas now with fast charging and V3 superchargers, the time you spend at a supercharger is so much smaller. But Elon still loves the idea of making supercharging an experience. So that's cool as well. Speaking of charging, by the way, we've had some more communication from Elon on Twitter this week. In fact, this was, when did he post this? Thursday the 17th. So yeah, this was yesterday as I'm recording this. It's just a little story, but it is worth noting. A user who goes by the name of Nuclear Geek reached out to Elon on Twitter and said, "Hey Elon, any update on supercharger additions? It's great that Tesla is selling so many cars, but this is going to scare away new adopters. We still have huge gaps all over the Midwest." He's talking about the US here, as well as overcrowding like this. Now, Nuclear Geek attached a video of 20 odd Teslas queuing up to get into his local supercharger. Now, although it's not clear where this video was taken, it certainly is damning, Now, fair play to Elon. He did reply to this user, simply saying, "Massive increase in supercharger network is underway." And he posted that on the 17th of June. Now, clearly some more, precision here would be nice. But just the fact that Elon is seeing this stuff is a good thing in my mind. And the user is right here. Nuclear Geek is absolutely right. This footage is damning. If you're, considering a Tesla and perhaps you're already concerned around going electric and what that entails, seeing this, seeing queues outside your local supercharger, that's going to affect your decision to buy for sure. In the UK, again, we're not seeing issues like this yet. But, as I mentioned earlier, everything that happens in the US, usually Tesla related, usually comes over here, and that's the good and the bad. However, the Model 3 is now the best-selling EV in the UK. We talked about this last week, and this could become an issue. It's something I always listen out to on the quarterly earnings call that Tesla hosts with their shareholders, and I'll let you know the date of that next week. Because, yes, you're selling loads of cars, and that's great, but you've got to underpin all of those sales with rock-solid services. I'm talking about, of course, quality control, supercharger, servicing, locations, all of it. The infrastructure has to be in place. That is the foundation, and it can't be out of kilter. So, from a Tesla perspective, you can't spend loads of money in infrastructure and then not sell cars. That doesn't work. But at the same time, from a user perspective, Tesla can't be selling loads of cars but not investing in the infrastructure. If it's out of kilter, you're looking at a nasty downward spiral there. But, hey, Elon's seen this. The company continues to assure us that they're investing heavily, especially in the supercharger network. So, let's wait and see. By the way, side note, last week I had a service appointment for my car because I had squeaky wheels, which has all been fixed now. And, the whole process of booking a service appointment through the app, the people that I dealt with, it was super smooth, super easy. COVID regulations obviously make it a little bit more sticky, but overall a fantastic experience, and that has to be held up as EVs become more and more popular, in particular Teslas. Side note on the supercharger point. Top tip on this, if you head over to www.tesla.com/supercharger, I think you then click find us or something, you can see where all the superchargers are, but also you can see where all the superchargers are going to be. So the greyed out supercharger logos, these are ones that are either in construction or have been applied for planning permission or whatever, and there's a lot of them. Just last week I was in Reading and they have one there, but they also are planning one about 6 miles down the motorway. So, you're starting to see, again, that investment in the infrastructure increase along with the sales and success of Tesla increasing as well. Now, again, the plan is to eventually, in this section here, have some sort of community section where, I speak to the listeners and stuff. And I do my plan at the moment is to somewhat, build up a portfolio of episodes before I launch that. So, this will hopefully be coming in the next few weeks. But if you did want to reach out to me, perhaps you have a question, comment, feedback, talk topic, whatever it might be, either record yourself on your phone's recording software and send it to me, or simply fire me an email. And that email address is teslatimepodcast@gmail.com. It would be amazing to hear from you. If you have feedback on the show, that would also be great to hear. That about does it for this week's episode of the Tesla Time podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Next week, we'll be bringing you more news, rumours and gossip from the world of Tesla. I'm having a blast pulling this show together, so I hope you like it. And if you do like it, then please subscribe and like and all that rubbish. Thank you so much for your time. I'll see you next week. Peace.